Aye.
Storm the White House. Storm the gates at the White House.
That's right.
Oh, my.
Hi there. How are you?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 6 p.m. It's time to, March 17th, 2025. It's time to call City Council meeting to order. Ms. Jones, roll call, please.
Mr. Austin?
Present.
Mr. Shuck?
Here.
Ms. McGinnis?
Here.
Ms. Nally?
Here.
Ms. Price?
Here.
Mr. Prine?
Here.
Mr. Taylor?
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Brian Reese.
Invite you to join me. Our Father, we come before you tonight. We thank you again for another opportunity to be here in City Hall and to hear the matters that are before us. And I pray tonight that you would grant our council wisdom and discernment as they make decisions. Lord, I pray that you would just help them to consider just the common good of all the residents of our city as they make decisions. Thank you so much for each of their service. Pray that you just bless our police, our fire, our EMTs, just all those who serve and protect here in our city. Thank you for our state leadership, our national leadership. Continue to keep us free and a beacon of liberty in the world. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Let's stand. Join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll sing if you want me to.
You don't want me to sing.
Repeat after me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you, sir. Okay, is there any announcements or public comments that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, we will go on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve the meeting minutes from March 3rd City Council meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we go on to old business.
Move to read old business by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to read by title only. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number one, approval of ordinance 2025-02, an ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance number 2013-04, the sale and use of fireworks. It was introduced on March 3rd. We'll have a public hearing tonight, and then action can be taken tonight. Okay, Ms. Joanna Tinnell.
Good evening. As the mayor had mentioned, this was introduced at the last city council meeting, and it is ready for the public hearing. As we discussed at the last meeting, there were a couple of items that were changed, one of them including a definition to define a grouping of types of fireworks to make it easier to follow throughout the ordinance. It makes it clear on who, when, and where fireworks can be displayed and set off. And it also includes the enforcement and violations. There is Indiana code that also regulates the use, sale of fireworks. So if there is some sort of violation, be it where city code and state law overlap, it would be at the discretion of the responding officer on whether or not they issue a state law violation, which has a different fine or penalty. If it is written as a city ordinance violation, the penalties are also listed in here. It is one of those that for repeat offenders, the first offense is $50, second offense is $100, and each subsequent offense is $500. And that would be within, a calendar year. It's ready for public hearing.
Okay, so at this time, we will open it up to the public. If anybody has any questions or comments, now's the time. Hearing none or seeing nobody moving forward, we will now close the public hearing. Does the council have questions for Joanna or comments?
I have none, Mayor.
Thank
I had
Move
one-
to, oh, sorry.
One question from a couple weeks ago. So we're leaving it up to the fire, or the police officers then to determine if the fireworks are eligible then? Or?
No, on whether or not it's a violation of city code or state law.
Okay.
And that primarily, if I may, Joanna, that primarily will lend itself to as to who is enforcing from a legal standpoint. So for instance, if an officer believes it's one of our ordinance violations, then they write a citation. It gets sent to city legal, me, and it's enforced civilly through city court. If it is the type of violation that actually violates city or state statute, then the police officer can then write a ticket, which is then forwarded to the prosecutor's office, and they can, and generally that discretion depends upon the type of violation it is.
Okay.
And so if that happens, it's forwarded to the prosecutor's office, then it is enforced by the prosecutor's office. So,
And then the fireworks that are in question are confiscated at that point then?
generally, I don't know that they would confiscate it, they would just stop it from occurring. And there are many times where it's a violation of both, but the officer will usually choose depending upon the type of behavior that's occurred.
We've always had this.
Kirby's on, you're on board, Kirby? You're okay?
One thing, thanks to Joanne and Lynn for the help on this too. One thing I'd say about it is the calls we get are normally not just everyday fireworks that most folks in here would deal with. What we would be focused on with the fire department, we've already discussed it a little bit, is the bigger fireworks, the things that get folks injured. And to answer your question about confiscation and whether or not it would be a city ordinance or that's going to determine some of that. And we would likely confiscate the bigger ones should we deem that they're illegal. But that's what's starting to happen in some of these neighborhoods, as Ms. Nally is aware of. So, yep, thanks.
And I would also add, not only the type of ordinance or whatever it is that they shoot off, but also where. We are getting more and more concerned that they'll take them to the amphitheater, that people will take them to the amphitheater. Clearly, you can't do that. You can't go on other people's property, that kind of thing. So I think this is a little more detailed in terms of making those things clear.
Sorry. Did that answer all your questions? Okay, I think we're ready for a motion.
Move to approve ordinance 2025-02.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Move to read new business by title only.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to read new business by title only. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item number 1, request approval of ordinance 25-03, authorizing the issuance of sewage works revenue bonds. City Attorney Lynn Gray.
Thank you, Mayor. And I would like to defer to my esteemed colleague, Mr. Hall, who is helping us as bond counsel. And he has been drafting these beautiful documents. Probably he and I are the only people who think they're beautiful, that recite the codes. But this is the first real step going forward with the issuance of the bonds that you all are aware of and we've been talking about. To answer a question that was raised at the Board of Works, if you recall, we addressed sewer rates in anticipation of doing just this, of having bonds and having the money available. So Mr. Peters is here to explain how doing what we're doing is in accordance with those rate changes that we made, and that we should have sufficient funds to have our projects done without any further rate raising. So with that, I would defer to Mr. Hall.
Thank you. So the ordinance before the council this evening authorizes the issuance of up to $47 million in bonds. And they would go to pay certain projects that are on Exhibit A of the ordinance. And those include the expansion of the existing sewer treatment plant and related improvements, the West Side Interceptor and lift station, sanitary sewer and manhole rehabilitation and related improvements, and any and all related improvements with respect to those projects. So, as was discussed at the Board of Works meeting, the project descriptions are flexible to allow the city to use the money in a variety of ways, depending on how construction bids come in. The timing of the process for the sale of the bonds would be that we would, the council could approve the ordinance at this meeting or this meeting and the next meeting. And then we would work with rating agencies to determine, to get a rating on the bonds, and then also put together the offering document. Construction bids would not be due until mid-August. After we receive those construction bids, then the actual bond sale would take place, so that the bonds could be sized appropriately, not too high if bids come in low, and not too low if bids come in high. So that is in an overview of the process. In the terms of the ordinance, these would be on a parity with the 2020 bonds. I know that Jeff Peters is here as well to answer any financial questions.
Do we have an idea, sir, what the rates are currently for bonds? Is it all over the place, or?
That's a great transition to Jeff.
Thank you all. You know, if we did it today, we'd probably be in the low fours, assuming that we would stay to that 20-year amortization, which is what you had picked as a council for us to calculate those rates on. The interest rate that I used for you to calculate those rates last fall was at 5%. Okay. So we've got a little bit of cushion in there. Couple things I did want to mention that I mentioned at the Board of Works meeting is the approval amounts in here are for up to 25 years. I know we set those rates based on 20. We fully anticipate that it will only be amortized for that 20-year period, but I wanted to provide any flexibility between now and early September when we actually market and sell these bonds. In case we have things that go awry, you can reevaluate that without having to start the entire process over. Lost my train of thought there.
How much flexibility is built into up to what percent, that potential that we could still?
The
pull
percent
project?
that's in here is up to 7%.
That's what I thought. I remember you from
Okay.
Board of Works, so.
That's probably where I was going. I appreciate that.
I
So, yeah,
think
we
you- I think that's-
calculated it, we calculated it at 5. We also, with these projects, and we discussed at the Board of Works, projects 1 and 2 were anticipated to be $46 million per the engineer's early estimates. Those will get refined before we actually do the bond sale. As part of that process, though, in that estimation, they will still have a contingency amount in it. So we may have funds left over at the end if possible, which could go toward numbers 3 and 4. That way you'll have a use for those. You won't be issuing more than you actually need for the progress or for the projects. If the projects come up short, and that was also a question in the Board of Works meeting, what we had talked about administratively previously is if this comes up short, we would undertake the treatment plant renovation first. The West Side Interceptor, then we would potentially backfill with TIF revenues, would go to the RDC fund and ask for TIF revenues. We also have multiple TIF allocation areas that we have not committed to bonds at this point in time, and I know we've talked about that in the past as well. So some of those revenue streams could be used as security to do additional bonds to finish up these projects if need be. So from a city perspective, you've got multiple options, you've got a lot of flexibility in order to get these done and maintain the rates that you have today and not have to raise them just for these projects.
I would also add that the Board of Works, I think it's a fair characterization that was one of the questions they wanted to know. Are we going to need to raise rates again? And the answer was pretty clear, no. That was one of the questions. We'll just have to work within this budget and adjust accordingly. The second thing, now I've lost my train of thought. The second thing is we can adjust some of the other items 3 and 4 if we want to, if the money comes or the project bids are too high. It also anticipates, in addition to the sewage treatment plant, the added billing office that needs to be revised and or repurposed or some way. So the 47 million, up to 47 million encompasses all of those projects that we've talked about in the past. I know Rick indicated that if we vote on it tonight, typically we introduce an ordinance, particularly one of this size, we introduce it and then have a public hearing at the next meeting before we actually take action on it. And we're okay in terms of timelines. And I can probably handle it next meeting, so you don't have to come down here if you want. But that's typically what we do to allow people to come in if they have any questions.
So while Jeff is here, any questions you have, or Rick? please jump on that. We did, see, what was the other thing that we brought up at Board of Works? My train of thought's coming back. That we're still one of the lowest, if not the lowest, in Johnson County at sewer rates.
With the recent increase in November,
Yeah, with our increase that we've had, we're still,
Yeah, and I did go back and pull that up. With the new rates, you're still below Bargersville, Greenwood. The other comps that we looked at was Greenfield. You were below Greenfield as well. You're about even with Martinsville. Martinsville's been multiple years without a rate increase, so I would assume that's forthcoming. And you were a little bit above Columbus and Mooresville, and both of those, I believe, were like 9 years from their last rate increase, so they may have already raised them by now. If not, I'm sure they're on course to do that. Don't know what those will actually be, but yes, for within the county of other cities, towns of adequate size, you're below that still.
good news.
and this is introduction tonight, so is there any more questions? Maggie, do you have any questions? Okay. Okay, it's been introduced.
Great, thank you all.
Thank you.
Jeff and Rick.
Thank you both for coming down. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, the next item is introduction of budgetary ordinance 25-03. Hang on just a second.
One.
Yeah, hang on just a second. The next item is request approval of budgetary resolution 25-01 for city matching portion of Community Crossings Grant 2024 Part 2. It's from me, and this one here, I think we can do this one tonight as
Yes.
well, because the money is just being moved. It's not creating new money. The MVH is, if you remember, several meetings ago, we had moved some of last year's money into the, no, this is not that one that we moved. This has come right out of the MVH budgeted $500,000, and then the LRS Capital has, I think, a $300,000 budget for this, and we got $109,000 coming from there. So $609,482.95 is what we are moving in budgeted money, so we can do this one tonight. Is there any questions? If not, we're ready for a motion.
Move to approve budgetary resolution 2501.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. This one here is the, yes.
I have one question. Is it really Resolution 2501? We not done other resolutions this year?
I can double check on that, but that's what is listed on there.
It is.
It may have been one that was drawn up
Earlier, okay.
earlier and just now being presented would be my guess.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Jan.
Yes.
Okay. Next item, introduction of budgetary ordinance 25-03 for permission to spend the state's portion of the Community Crossings Grant. The state has already given us their part, the $609,482.95, and now we are going to ask for permission to spend that money. So it's introduction tonight, and we will ask for your approval the next meeting with a public hearing. And just a question with that, Jan. This maybe, I don't know if you know this one right off the top of your head, but where we just agreed to move the money, our matching portion, will we have to ask permission to spend that as well? Because I think we're putting it all in the same fund, correct?
We are.
Okay, and then next meeting, I didn't know if we were going to be asking to spend this money next meeting, or doing what we did tonight took care of that.
I'll have to double check. I hate to answer and.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think the money's already been appropriated, that's why we just moved it.
Right.
But, yeah, we can double check, make sure they're okay with it
Okay.
by the time the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that was introduction, just asking permission to spend the money that the state has graciously given us. Yeah. And just to tie on to that, when the legislation starts and comes through, for us to get the grant money, that's where they're saying we're gonna have to impose a wheel tax, or we don't get that money anymore. So when we get closer to that time, we'll lay that out just a little bit further, what the state is doing to us here. So, yeah, that one's introduced. Going to the next item, yearly tax abatement compliance reports for approval. Community Development Specialist Dana Monson. Now we can sit back and rest a little bit.
The Matt McElroy of the City Council, right, Ms. Gray? That's reading all of these. Good evening. It is the season for our CF1 tax abatement compliance forms. We have a total of 55 abatements that we will be reviewing. We have about 32 before you so far. Last Tuesday, March 11th, these first ones were all reviewed by the Economic Development Commission. Your representative is Mr. Taylor. I don't know if you have any comments, sir, that you would want to make about this.
Just basically reading through all of them, these were probably the easiest to actually confirm, and there was no issues. Wages were way up. The salary, everybody was meeting all the things. There was a couple that were a little bit lower, but I think their tax abatements were basically falling off. So then nothing to worry about. They were done this year. So it was good to read through. Salaries were way up, number of them in the $40 range for hourly wages. So it was good to see.
Yeah, we've really seen a really good resurgence. Since COVID, a lot of these companies that were way down have really come back up. They're at or above on almost all of them. And as Mr. Saylor said, the ones that were slightly below are honestly slightly below because as part of COVID and part of the issues where they had to partially shut down, they ended up finding some ways to make their operations a little bit leaner and things like that. So they didn't lay off people, but through general attrition and things like that, they just didn't hire new because they found they didn't need to. So they just kind of made themselves a little bit stronger and leaner, but their wages were all way up. So if they had less employees, their wages were $3 to $7, $9 in some cases higher than what they anticipated.
And it seemed maybe and there was a couple that were on the early stages of theirs, like Malarkey and things.
Correct.
They just simply haven't built the facility yet, but
Right.
they're on track.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that
But they
right?
are all on track, and so that's why we still have them, even though they haven't completed their projects, we still have them report in every year. Because for some of these multi-year projects, that way we can kind of keep an eye, and if we do see any early signs of anything that could be an issue, we can kind of intervene early and kind of catch it. But fortunately, everybody is on task. All of our new projects are moving forward. Nobody had any issues. It's been really nice.
Sir, do you recall, was EDC unanimous on all the compliance?
Yes, everything was unanimous. There wasn't any issues, didn't really any major discussion as far as bringing companies in. And because normally when we go through a list like this, we're bringing in 2 to 3, maybe 4 companies back to kind of find out what's going on and what their status is. If they're looking to hire employees, are they growing, or are they really struggling and getting ready to go out of business, to kind of find out the truth there. So, but all of them were in great shape. There wasn't these were pretty easy to approve.
Sean, I noticed there was a few that are coming off the books,
Correct.
like 4, 5, which is kind of, I'm not going to say nice, but it's, they're
So
going to
some
be
of them, yeah, there was a couple of them that had a 10-year abatement, and now
Right.
they're been here for 10 years, and now they're on the full tax roll. So
Right. Well, at least they survived the storm from COVID and continued on. So thanks, John, for your work. Appreciate it.
Just as a refresher, Dana, I don't mean to steal your thunder, but for our young folks here that are in the audience and those that may be watching on YouTube, this is a requirement for the city council to get recommendations from the EDC when we give a tax abatement to a company that comes in. They still pay taxes, but we phase in some of the higher taxes over a period of time. When we do that, they generally make representations as to the types of business they're going to bring, the types of jobs they're going to bring, the types of money those jobs are going to pay. While we believe them when they tell us that, we're also duty-bound to make sure that they do what they say they're going to do, and that's called a compliance report. EDC looks at it, reviews it, sees if they're in compliance, they make a recommendation, and then Dana brings it to the council, and the council gives them a thumb up if they've done what they said they'd do. That's a kind of an abbreviated form, but that's about the best way I can explain it.
That's correct.
Fair?
Yes, ma'am. That is absolutely correct.
Thanks.
Okay, so next steps.
I need to read these all into the record, and then I would ask for a vote for approval. So,
And we can do a collective vote
Yes,
for
ma'am.
all that have been read in, and unless there is one that you do not wish to approve.
No.
Okay, but otherwise, you can just approve them all as presented. Okay.
C 2025-01, Ishan 2110, C 2025-02, B2S Life Sciences 2005, C 2025-03, BP Rex 1904, C 2025-04, Cat Remand 1015, C 2025-08, Dual Tech 2311, C 2025-12, Franklin Tech Park 2109, C 2025-17, Innovative 3D 2117, C 2025-18, Innovative 3D 2411, C 2025-20, LA Crossroads 2004, C 2025-21, Lago Properties 2310, C 2025-22, Malarkey Roofing 2401, C 2025-23, Malarkey Roofing 2402, C 2025-24, MTEA 1307, C 2025-25, MTEA 2330, C 2025-26, MHICC 1306, C 2025-27, MHICC 1329, C 2025-39, Overton Industries 1621, C 2025-40, Overton Industries 2201, C 2025-41, Patch Development 1710, C 2025-42, Patch Development 2111, C 2025-44, Pure Development 2128, C 2025-45, Rapid Prototyping 1801, C 2025-46, Rapid Prototyping 1910, C 2025-47, WK Investments 2319, C 2025-48, RP&E 2405, C 2025-49, Airtomic 1811, C 2025-50, Shelby Gravel 2017, C 2025-51, Shelby Gravel 2018, C 2025-52, Sunbeam 1715, C 2025-53, Sunbeam 1907, C 2025-54, Sunbeam 2010, C 2025-55, Sunbeam 2305.
Good job, Dana.
Okay.
Okay.
So is there any other questions or comments for Dana? If not, I think we're ready for approval.
Move to approve.
Second.
Before she read any more. Sorry.
There's more coming in, more coming.
20
Okay,
more.
so we have a motion, Ann made the motion, Sean gets the second. So we have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Dana, for that.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, the ER declaratory request for Aerotomics, Dana Monson.
Yeah, so Bateman's Never Stop. This is a new one that has come in. Airtomic is also known as Sargent Aerospace. They have been here in the city of Franklin for about 15 years, a little over 15 years. They were my neighbor when I was at JCDC, right behind us at an industrial drive. They started out in a little 9,000 square foot building. They moved to they built on and created a 16,000 square foot building. And then they were doing so well, they moved to a brand new 30,000 square foot building in the Franklin Business Park. This is a company that 30,000 foot level here, they repair airplane engines. And we're talking the major airplane engines. Lufthansa from Germany is now their #1 client. It used to be Japan Air. I think Japan Air is like 2 or 3 now, but Lufthansa has actually taken them over. They are doing some incredible work and incredible things in a little 30,000 square foot facility. They came before the EDC last Tuesday and came to present this expansion that they want to do on this building. They built this building in 2019. At the time, they built a 30,000 square foot facility. Mayor Barnett said, you guys need to build it bigger. It's not big enough. They didn't listen to him. And they said, oh, it's going to be at least 10 years before we'll need any more space. It's been 5 and they're back. They're needing more space. They are truly out of space. It's quite incredible. They told us in 2019 that they would have about 30 to 35 employees. They currently have 60. They are anticipating adding another 40 to have 100 employees and running multiple shifts. So that's how big that they are getting. They said what, Mr. Taylor, $8 billion industry. They made $2 billion last year,
I think it was a little closer, I think it was 10, wasn't it?
Was it 10?
I think it
I
was
can't-
$10 billion,
I was trying to keep
and they
on
were at just a small portion
Small
of it. It's
portion of
just
that.
crazy how much money's in here.
As in B, billion. you said.
Billion.
Yeah,
And
as
the
in B.
The industry itself is a, $10 billion industry to repair
Right.
airplane parts.
Yeah, so it's pretty incredible. As I said,
Clear the record there, they didn't do that themselves.
No.
That's the.
that's the
And
industry-wide.
and they are saying that there's all kinds of avenues for them to tap into that.
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, it's an $8 billion industry, and they made 2 of that. So yeah, there's lots of room for growth and expansion with this. As part of this, as I said, they went to the EDC to have this vetted. This property is not in an ERA. This is one of those weird deals where we originally had an ERA, an economic revitalization area, on the Franklin Business Park, which is where this is located. This is in that northern piece where Linville Way is, which is the road that the RDC built to kind of help build growth in that area. It had an expiration date because back 20 years ago when you did those, they made you do expiration dates. We don't have to do that anymore. Downside is now we have a new property. It has no ERA. Per state statute, we are required to do that. So the first step in this process is tonight. I'm going to ask Mr. Taylor if he has any comments about the project first before we go into the procedures. So anything else that you want to say about it tonight, sir?
No, they invited us all out to go visit the facility, and it was really interesting to see how intricate they can weld. I mean, they, ultimately they said, imagine 2 pieces of paper, they weld those together. That thin of metal, and they weld those together, and then some of their applications to make sure all those welds were airtight, and when they dropped them in, they had like a highlighter type stuff, and then they dropped them in, and if it had the smallest little bubble come through, they could see it through that, with that dye that they had running through there. It was really interesting to see all the parts, fixtures, and how intricate, some of their things were.
It's pretty amazing.
When you get on a plane, you're glad they do that.
Yeah, I'm going to be on a plane in 2 weeks. I'm really
All
glad they do
right.
that.
Yeah.
So, the first part of this is tonight is, I have before you the resolution for the declaratory for the economic revitalization area. So I am requesting your approval for that as per the EDC's recommendation. And I am also requesting permission to publicize for a public hearing for the confirmatory. I am asking that the public hearing be set for April 21st, your second meeting next month. And then that's when we will also discuss the actual abatement, the years, the investment, all of that kind of stuff.
So April 7th, we're not going to have it on the agenda.
We're not, because I'm going to be out of town. I'm going to be at a conference that week, so I would not be able to be here for this. So that's why we requested the 21st,
Okay.
which still fits into their timeline just fine. It doesn't inhibit anything.
Okay. All right, so say again what the motion that you're going to need to move forward.
I am requesting approval of the resolution for the economic revitalization area, the declaratory for that, and then requesting permission to advertise for a public hearing on April 21st.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Dana.
Thank you.
Does this cover the whole park now? Or just this property?
It just covers this property. It's just, then, when you do those ERAs, they want you to have a project attached to them. Almost all of it will be. Yeah, there'll just be maybe another 40 acres that's not. Otherwise, we've been able to go through this and catch them.
Did we, with 3D,
Innovative 3D has their own ERA. We did that as part of theirs
we've
back in
already done
November.
that one?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Dana.
Okay, gets us, there isn't any other business that gets us to council comments. And I'm going to pass this out to the council here, and what this is, we talked about just a few minutes ago about the Community Crossings Grant. And this year, we're doing the $609,482.95 that we talked about. That is the very first page where it says 2024 round 2, because so these streets will soon be getting paved. Then the next page is we just received a $1.5 million grant for community crossings which we haven't bid, and I think, Mark, you and Matt are getting ready to put the bid out, I think, for that. Yeah, and so the next page is the 2025 community crossings list of roads that's going to be bid on. So that's why I passed that out, so you can have those roads to look at.
Bears Drive.
And then your constituents in your area. If you see, we have an outside firm that comes in and they rate our roads. It's called the Pazer system. And they come in and rate the roads, and that's how the roads are picked out to be paved. It's not just one of us or some of us up here saying, I want this road paved or I want that road paved. It's actually done by a rating system. So that's all I got to say on that. I just wanted to make sure you got that. So we'll start. I'll let you be last, man.
Okay, so it's paper.
Josh, do you have something, comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to give a thanks to Mark on all his years here with the city. We've done a lot of projects, and appreciate his leadership on all that. So.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Mark. Ann?
Absolutely. Thank you to Mark, and enjoy every minute of retirement. Well deserved.
Moving to Mexico, Mark? Oh. All right. If you notice the deep tan he has right there, so. Ken?
No, I just, kudos again to Mark. Yeah. World class, great guy, amazing engineer. And I learned 8 years that you've been working for the city, and you've done a great job. So we're going to be missed, and you're going to be missed.
Don?
Just the same thing. Thanks, Mark. Great job. Appreciate all your hard work and cleaning up the city and cleaning and helping us with all the bid stuff. I know can be very time-consuming and tedious. Appreciate all your work.
Todd?
Mark, only 2 years with me, one before election, one afterwards. You're outstanding. That's awesome. Was it something I said? Is that why you're leaving? Did?
No, in fact, I thought about staying just.
Irene?
Thanks, Mark, for all you did for the city. We really appreciate it. Best of luck, and enjoy that grandbaby.
Yep. I'll just reiterate what everybody else said and just keep Gail in line now, right? Right.
Now, Maggie, I don't know if you know Mark, so if you don't really know, you just know that he's done a great job
Yeah.
because the city's in good shape, so, yeah. All right, but go ahead, Maggie, if you don't mind to introduce our folks here that's with us.
Will you guys stand up and introduce yourself?
I'm Liz Woods.
I'm Parker Willis. I'm Grace McCullough.
I'm Mackenzie Palmer.
So at our last meeting, we continued to plan for the chili supper and continued finalizing the details on that, but we don't have a date yet. And we also were recently approached by Franklin College to set up a presentation for Camp Grizz. So we are working on creating a presentation to spread the knowledge about our club and get the youth more involved into what our club does. And we are still working on the generator project with Chrissy Robinson from the Public Arts Advisory Council, where we are painting the generator outside of City Hall. And hopefully within the next few weeks, the lights for the pickleball courts will be installed.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just one thing, Maggie, I think I said it wrong. Yeah. Maddie, it's, I thought, okay, sorry, Maddie.
Okay.
That's why I had to say that. But you got.
That's a right stand.
Yeah, so you got Josh Prime down here, and I know you've been looking at something with the Elks maybe to.
Yes.
He's a big dog at the Elks, so right down there is the guy you need to go talk to if you want to get that set up.
Okay.
So pressure's on, Josh. So, all right, so with that being said.
I've already given all my love to Mark, which was genuine. However, I would say, Tara and Jan, had he told us he was leaving, we wouldn't have had all that Kentucky stuff in the employee
I
manual.
know.
Yeah, so I take it all back. Never mind.
Jan, you got anything to say?
No.
Okay, Tara? Okay. We need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Green beer and I.
I don't know, do they have green wine?